I just saw the case of a woman who um, discovered that after decades of marriage, that her husband was drugging her and inviting men in to assault her. If you know what I mean. I don't want this video to be taken down. And he was running a whole website. Um, and the most alarming thing about this whole case is she said that prior to discovering what was happening to her, she would have described her and her husband's marriage as wonderful. And I'm hanging on that to say this. I get so many comments from women and so many angry messages from women who say, not my husband, not my dad, not my brother, not all men. My husband's amazing. My husband would never do anything like that. She thought the same thing. And when I tell women, hey, don't be financially dependent on a man, you know, I have women who get upset with me for saying that. And I'm not saying that that woman was. The reason I'm bringing this up is when we find ourselves in situations where the shit hits the fan, you don't want to be in the unfortunate position to where you are stuck in said shit. You know? Because at the end of the day, my husband would never do that to me. Like I said, she thought the same. And unfortunately, you wouldn't know if your husband was doing something like that to you until it was too late. Hundreds of people assaulted that woman over decades. She had no clue because he was drugging her, putting it in her food, putting it in drinks. So you wouldn't know if your husband was or not until it was too late. And everybody says it couldn't be me. And the victims of these horrific crimes at one point thought the same thing. And we seem to have this false idea that all abusers have a neon sign on their forehead that says, I'm an abuser. And the signs are piping hot red flags on day one. And you should know better. And the signs are blaring and obvious, right? And we all think that we're with these amazing men until they're not. And then by the time you realize that they're not, it's too late. So instead of saying my boyfriend would never, my husband would never, it should be I really hope he wouldn't. And if he ever did something horrible, I have a plan to leave. I can take care of myself. I can take care of my children. I hope I don't need to use that plan, but I have one just in case. When we get on our cars, we put our seat belts on. Of course, it's the law. However, most of us have common sense to know that we don't want to go flying through a windshield if we get into an accident. So we put on our seatbelt. We're not hoping an accident will happen, but if one does, we want to be protected as much as possible. We lock our front doors and our back doors and our side doors and our windows. We're not hoping that somebody will come in and burglarize our homes, but if that were to happen, we want to have as much protection as possible put into place. And various other situations where we're not hoping for something, but if something happens, we want protection put into place. So I get it. Your man is amazing. That's your lobster. That's your guy. That's your bestie. You couldn't imagine your life without him. He would never, 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 never. But most victims who are in domestic violence shelters, most victims who are in hospitals, most victims who are now cooperating with police on a case that they're in, And those victims who are no longer with us at one point thought it would never be them. And that their men were amazing. And that their men would never do whatever happened to them. Just like you right now, looking at me like I'm crazy, because not all men, maybe not all, but one is too many. And it's happening at alarming rates. And people want to say, well, women too. And trust me, I've done plenty of videos on horrible moms and horrible friends and all that. But statistically, as a woman, you are more than likely to be harmed by a man than by a woman. And if you're living in the delusion of it could never happen to me, if you're living in the delusion that my man is not capable of that kind of evil, you are just that, living in delusion. Because first and foremost, here's what I need you to understand. All of us, you, me, everyone is capable of both good and evil. We are one snap, I can't snap with this hand. We are one snap decision away from evil. All of us, every single one of us. And that's what I need to get you to understand. And that's where you often hear these stories when you're watching a true crime story or something like that, and the neighbors are being interviewed. And what do they all say? I would have never thought. And then something horrible has happened. So what I need women to realize is, yeah, it could be you. And it might not be a situation where you're getting abused over a lengthy period of time. There have been women who had their boyfriends or their husbands were seemingly great until they said they wanted a divorce because they grew apart, and then that man snapped and they're no longer here to tell the tale. It might not be abuse and hitting you. It could be something that just happens at the blink of an eye. This is why I want us to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. And if that makes me negative and you think I hate men and I just don't get it and I'm miserable and bitter and not my husband, there are so many women who thought that too.